I thought I'd throw on a jumper for the occasion, and I'll use the word autumn in honor of my daughter's name, Autumn. So today we have autumn book recommendations for the year 2025. What is up, everybody? It's your girl Jada Reads here, aka Diamond, back with another video, and today we have autumn book recommendations for the year 2025. So if you are looking for some books to read during the fall and winter months, very cozy books that are befitting for the season, just keep on watching. Let's just get straight into it. These are going to be in no particular order, as I just yanked them all off of my shelf. What I went in with was vibes only. I'm looking for books that are giving me that fall cozy vibe, books that I just could not put down. Each and every last one of these books sucked me in so much. I probably read all of them within the span of 3 days. Majority of these 2. If they're a little bit longer, they took about 3 days, and they just fit the vibe of fall, of winter, of laid up in the bed with a nice warm cup of coffee, warm cup of tea, and just amazing characters and great storytelling. So the first book that we have here on the list is going to be Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This book is very atmospheric. This book is very cozy, very warm, and it's not really a long one, and you'll just really enjoy it being wrapped up in some warm covers on the couch, sucked into this novel. This novel is about a being of sorts, a character who is set inside a labyrinth of a house. He's trying to, well, not sort of at first. At first, he's just this thinking that this is his life, this is his world, this is where he was born. And then what you find is a mystery that has to be solved. And within these pages is something like a magical dream of sorts. You are thrust into this character Piranesi's reality. You're trying to also go on the course and figure out what's happening with him. There are waves of oceans inside of the house. There is sudden earthquakes inside of this labyrinth of a house. There are characters who are unexpectedly the villain in the story, who was once somebody who was supposed to be a figure of love and adoration. And also, it's just a complex story to really tell you, which I'm not here to tell you the story, I'm here to give you the vibes. But just know that this right here is a perfect vibe for especially October-ish. Mid to late October, early November, getting you set up and ready for the winter time. And it's something that you just would not want to put down, which is the whole point of a fall recommendation, right? Something to keep you warm. Piranesi is one of those novels. All right, the next recommendation is going to be Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. Same thing. Now, in this novel, it's kind of sort of like a saga. So you will go through different seasons in this novel with the main characters. But I do believe this book starts off in the fall winter time, if I'm not mistaken. But it does give that vibe. You're going to be following an epic. You're following a young man who is in search of something. He's trying to figure out himself, where he comes from, his family, and if there's a treasure that he does not know about, to kind of set him up and get him ready for life. Because he's kind of lost of sorts. He just wants to figure things out, wants to find true love, wants to find the meaning of life and how to be a man, I guess. But once again, it has those nice, warm, cozy vibes that you're looking for. It's not an easy one. This is one of those novels that Toni Morrison said herself she wrote for men. She thought about the men in her life, the men that she adores, the men who are fixtures in what her reality was at that time, and she wanted to pay homage to those men and basically write this story to show that she sees them. But it also fits and is befitting of that fall winter vibe. It's very cozy and it's unputdownable. So I highly recommend the Song of Solomon. Another one is most definitely befitting of that autumnal vibe, and it also is befitting for especially the October months, and it is going to be the first installment of the Gormenghast trilogy. This is called Titus Groan. This is atmosphere at its finest. In this novel, we meet the titular character Titus, who is the heir to the Gormenghast castle, which is what you see here. And you meet a cast of intriguingly quirky, funny, very unique characters, and you are thrust into the writing style of Mervyn Peake. Mervyn Peake was a master. He is often compared to not George R.R. Martin, but Tolkien. He's often compared to Tolkien in his writing, and the way that they both the way that they wrote fantasy, which is very different, but of that same vein. But this is quite unique in and of itself, and I really adored this story. And it was one of those books where you just wanted to continue on in reading. And also, you find that the way that Mervyn Peake paints the portrait of this castle, the detail that he put into the writing is just something in and of itself otherworldly. And it just has that je ne sais quoi that a book of this magnitude should have. And it is once again befitting for the season, and I highly recommend this story. If you've read this, if you have not read this, if you're interested in this, if you want to read this again, I think actually this year will be a good time. It was a fun time and I loved it. So highly recommend Titus Groan by Mervyn Peake. All right, another book that is perfect for the season is going to be Cold Mountain by Charles Fraser. Now, I love this book so much. This book is very atmospheric, beautifully written, very much deserving of the National Book Award. And I think it's one of those books that you always see at a used bookstore, but you never get it, never pick it up. But there is a reason why there are so many copies of this. It is a magnificent story. This is the story of Edmund and Ada and the Civil War and a journey of sorts. It's very reminiscent of the Odyssey, and it's a story of longing, very atmospheric, very much so in the fall winter months necessary. You're going to go through all the seasons in this novel, but the main thing to note is that it is beautifully written, and the detail and the way that Charles Fraser relays the way the world looked at that time, the weather, the trees, the house, the landscape, nature writing at its finest is this novel, and it's perfect for the fall time. It's very, very cozy and very beautiful, and very heartbreaking, but in the best way. Just a very underrated book, and it should be on your radar. So highly recommend Cold Mountain by Charles Fraser. And another one. All right, so this is a trilogy that we're going to discuss. It is the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. So it's all three books in one. Here we have Annihilation. Hold on. I said I wasn't going to even look. We have Annihilation, Authority, and Acceptance all in one. And I've read all three of these, and they are magnificent. This was kind of sort of my introduction into horror, but it's not so much scary as I thought it would be. Now, Annihilation actually is pretty scary, I have to say. It is pretty creepy crawly. It has you a little bit afraid to turn a page, but it's not so much just like in your face, scared to read it at night type of thing. But it is scary. But one thing to note is that it's atmospheric. That is what we're looking for. It's great for a transitional period. I would say if you want to read something getting you ready for the fall, it would be good to read this book kind of sort of right now, as we're not really focusing in on the weather in this novel, but the atmosphere that this novel gives is really good for the fall, winter months, the seasons changing. So yeah, that's why I added it into the mix. It's great nature writing, and just really, it's still very much cozy. It gives that cozy vibe. because you are kind of sort of like being a detective. You're on a mission trying to figure out what this thing is in this novel, and how the characters are going to figure, or the main character is going to figure out what's going on and what's happening within the Southern Reach. And yeah, it's really good. It's really interesting, I have to say, as well. And I highly recommend it for the fall and winter months. This next one is, whoa, they are really out, y'all. I live on my apartment faces the street. So one side of my apartment is the woods and the other side is the street. So that's why I'm always having these moments in my videos where you can hear, you know. But the next book, perfect. Now, I actually read this book for my birthday, which for all intents and purposes is in the winter time, but it is on the cusp of spring. So March 9th is my birthday. So the weather is transitioning. On a good year, it is actually about 60 degrees on my birthday. Bad year, 30. So it's kind of still, my birthday's a winter, but this book would have been perfect had I read it in the fall. And that is Wolf Hall by the late great Hilary Mantel. Perfect for the fall and winter months. Absolutely perfect. This book intrigued me on so many levels. Not for nothing, I knew a lot of what the story entails, but I never read anything regarding this time frame. Plus, I learned a lot about the titular. He's not titular, sorry, but I learned a lot about the main character of the trilogy, Thomas Cromwell, and what part he played in Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn and everyone else in between the storylines. I read a lot and found out a lot about him, but I absolutely love this book because of the writing and the atmosphere, and it's cozy, super cozy vibes. So if you're looking for a little bit of history, historical fiction, accuracy, great writing, great atmosphere, attention to detail, I would highly recommend Wolf Hall if you have not. And of course, Bring Up the Bodies, which is the second installment. I've not read The Mirror and the Light yet, but I do own it and plan on getting to it sometime soon. Another one. Perfect. Absolutely perfect for fall. It's one of the best books that I read last year, and that is Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. And it actually takes place in the winter, so it's great. A transitional read of sorts. Very atmospheric, family saga, lots of drama, attention to detail. You get mad at the characters in this book, very unlikable characters, very lovable characters. You learn a lot about just family dynamics and the way children might perceive their parents and perceive themselves in this life. And it's just interesting. You get a marriage story, you get young adults finding out about who they like, what they want from life. You get a lot of that sibling dynamic, sibling rivalry. There's tales of addiction in this story. There's tales of longing in this story. It's just great. It's one of those wonderfully written books that are really good when you're just trying to be cozied up in the house under a blanket or two with that warm cup of tea. Perfect. This book is perfect for the fall. Literally fall in a few pages. Excellent. Highly recommend. Another one, perfect. I read this book Christmas Eve, 2023, and I fell in love with this book. I thought it was amazing, and I speak very highly of it. And I also recently read the partner of this book that they both read the Pulitzer, which it should be on this list, but because I just talked about it, I'm not going to put it here. But this is Trust by Hernan Diaz, and it's a cozy read as well. It is a great fall winter book. It's perfect for the season. If you have not picked this up, I would behoove you to do so because it's very rewarding. This book is 3 novels in one, and you get the truth, I believe, in the last portion of the novel. And it follows a millionaire/billionaire named Thomas Bevel. His last name is definitely Bevel. But it starts off with these two characters named Helen and Benjamin Rask, but that is not their names. That is the name that they're given in, I guess, a autobiography or biography of sorts. And then you learn who the character from the first novel really is in the second portion of the book. And in the third portion of the book, you understand why some parts are hidden and some parts are revealed, and the whole, I guess, architect, the visionary behind how Mr. Rask / Bevel was able to amass such a fortune of sorts. And so mainly what you get is really great writing, really great, once again, attention to detail, and also just to me, with this novel, and why I loved it so much and why it was really good for that time frame, was the mystery, the mystique behind the book, wanting to turn that page and figure out what's actually happening. I love a book that kind of makes you work for what's happening instead of a book that's continuously giving you the information. So that's one reason that this book is a really good book. And another one is the source of the fortune, the source of the knowledge. What you find at the end is just like the story of a lot of our lives, the story of a lot of women. And I was very impressed by Hernan Diaz for what he decided to do with this book and where he decided to take us. And it's just a phenomenal read. And I would behoove you to read it. Highly recommend. Trust Hernan Diaz. Another one absolutely befitting for a few reasons is going to be The Idiot by Elif Batuman. For one, you go on the journey with Selene, who is the main character of the book. She is entering into her first year at Harvard. And when do you go to college? In the fall. Perfect. You go through the seasons with her as well, though. You spend the entire year with her and her longing, her obsession. You learn a lot about what she's learning in school and just a coming of age story of sorts. And it's beautifully written, phenomenal. And I think she was a finalist for the Pulitzer. This book was really good. It could have won. I don't know what other books were there with her during this time frame, but it's perfect for that reason alone. You join her as she embarks on a new life, and you go into those fall and winter months with her. And it makes for just a great companion piece, especially for someone who is 18, 19 years old possibly. And for me, millennials who are in constant search of nostalgia, I think that's one of the main characteristics of being a millennial. We are stuck in what we used to love and what we used to know, and no one can tell us any different. This book kind of fits that method or mode of thinking, if you will. And that's one reason why it made for a very, very good read in the fall time. Very cozy. Highly recommend. The next one, still, of course, like if this isn't on anyone's list, a recommender or something, you're tripping, because everybody has to know that The Secret History by Donna Tartt is a must. It's a great read for the fall season. Talking about atmosphere, the whole makeup, the genetic makeup of this novel is fall. Takes place in the fall. Once again, college students going to college. And then they're in, I think, like Vermont or Maine or something, where it's extremely cozy, extremely cold, rains a lot of snow, a lot of atmospheric writing, and a mystery of sorts. Those are all really great themes for the fall and winter months. So yeah, The Secret History is a crowd favorite. It's almost everybody's favorite book. Almost everybody has read this book and they love this book, and I love this book as well. This follows teenagers going to college, studying the classics, Greek mythology, Greek literature, all of those things, and a mystery of some sort happens, and really you learn what happens at the beginning of the story, and then we read about the fallout of things and how everyone copes with what ended up happening, and I guess the end result, if you will. But still, phenomenal book, great read, great for the season that we're talking about right now. The last two. The next book, I read this book in the fall and I love this book, but you really could read this in any season and love it, but it is befitting for the time that we're talking about, and that's Circe by Madeline Miller. And we follow one of the Greek goddesses, Circe, as she is outcasted by her family because of her gifts that she has been blessed with, I guess, if you will. And we follow her in exile and all the people that she meets on Kakai. What's the island that she goes to? I think it's Aya. On her island, we learn about love and violence and why Circe is one of the most prominent characters in Greek mythology. The atmosphere is perfect in this book. The lessons that we learn in this book are very important, very powerful, especially for women. It's a necessary read, I feel, for women. And it gives you like this sense of empowerment also. And it's one of those books that is really good for you to be cozied up in the house, curled up with a hot tea or coffee. It's really perfect for that. I can't stress that enough, because I distinctly remember what I was doing in the time frame that I read this novel. It was winter when I read it, but the seasons were about to change. But I could just imagine if I had read it in October or November or even December, I would have had that same effect, or it probably would have been even better. But this is one for the books as it relates to atmosphere. And yeah, it's just a great story in general, and I highly recommend it. And the last book is most definitely perfect for that time. One, because it's a thickie, and two, because it just is great in the atmospheric department, and that's East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I absolutely love this book, one of my favorite books of all time. And it's everything and more that everybody says. If you don't like this book, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't understand why anyone wouldn't, unless they read it alongside the audiobook. I think this is perfect for you to read on your own, with your own eyes, your own interpretation of the voices of the characters. That could be one reason why I think people don't, because I did try the audiobook and it wasn't my favorite. So I finished off this book alone. And yeah, it follows two families, the Hamiltons and the Trasks, and it is a Cain and Abel story. How these two families break off, and then how one family amassed some sort of like inheritance or wealth, and the other family just kind of struggled through things a lot, and just like how they were able to like come together, break apart, come together, break apart. Has one of my most favorite characters ever in this book. Ever. You'd have to read it to know exactly who I'm talking about, or go and watch one of my reviews. But other than that, it's really great atmospherically. It's very long. You spend a lot of time with these characters, and that's what makes it good for the fall and winter months, because we are cooped up in the house a lot. So when you're cooped up in the house a lot, you don't want to go out. You just want to be home, and you want to enjoy something that's not entertainment on a phone or on a computer or on a TV screen. You want to grab something where you're invested in it through and through, and that is East of Eden by John Steinbeck, because there's so much that this book offers, and it gives you a sense of safety, a sense of warmth, and yeah, you fall in love with this book because you spend so much time with it, of course. But yeah, that's that. So East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I have tons and tons of more books that I could definitely recommend to you guys, but this video would go on forever. So those are some of the books that stuck out to me to just kind of like get us ready, or get you ready for the fall time, introduce you to something that you might not have heard of before, or just give you a piece of my world and the books that I've enjoyed over the years. So if you read any of these books, if you agree that they are definitely worth your read during these months, I think you should share in the comments section, and also give us some of your recommendations. I love recommendations. I always have books that I'm adding to my TBR based on these types of videos. So I would enjoy it if you would give me and all the other watchers additions to add to this video, and just like add to the conversation as a whole. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next upload. Deuces.